This video intends to equip you with a prerequisite knowledge for this course, that is, understanding theories. During the lectures, I use theoretical papers to provide recommendation to Jim Barton, the imaginary CIO of IVK. You need to be able to understand those theories to realize the reasons behind my recommendations. After this lecture, you can explain what constructs and hypotheses are. You describe what a nomological model is. You can interpret a verified nomological model, and you can quickly find hypotheses in a paper. A theory has two components, constructs and relationships. Constructs are measurable variables. They are properties of a thing, such as an organization, a person, a group, or a technology. Examples of the constructs are alignment, firm performance, and theory one. They are properties of an organization's performance, an organization's alignment. In theory two, you see three constructs: ease of use, usefulness, and adoption. These are the properties of technology adoption, technology usefulness, and technology ease of use. The second component of a theory is relationship. A relationship is an association between two variables. It is usually causal or correlational. That means if we have alignment and performance in theory one, if we increase alignment, performance will be increased. This is an example of a correlational association. We call alignment in this theory one an antecedent of firm performance, which means that alignment needs to be first increased so that after that firm performance is increased. And we interpret the picture in theory one as alignment influences firm performance. In theory two, we can say ease of use influences adoption. Relationship, especially correlational and causal relationships, can be positive or negative. The first theory shows a positive relationship. It is described as alignment positively influences firm performance. And the interpretation is that if alignment is increased, firm performance will increase. If alignment is decreased, firm performance will also decrease. A negative relationship is seen in the second theory. It can be described, this second theory can be described as alignment negatively influences firm performance. The interpretation is that if alignment is increased, firm responsiveness will decrease. However, if alignment is decreased, firm responsiveness will increase. So it's an example of a negative correlation between the two variables. Sometimes researchers combine several hypotheses and have a bigger theory. They usually use nomological models to represent that theory visually. As you can see here, we have on the right side, we have four constructs in this theory and four relationships. Uh, so it's easier to be, it's quicker to understand what the theory is if a nomological model is used. However, many information system papers do not include a nomological model. And examples are the papers that I introduced you to them in the previous lecture, Banker, Toll, and Saberwal and Chan. If you open those papers, you only see hypotheses, and they are just verbally, stated. There is no representation of, these hypotheses in the paper. Visual representation of these hypotheses in the paper. So note that, a theory can be presented in a visual way as well as a textual manner. A theory is usually supported by reasoning, but it needs to be verified against data. Usually, after data collection, a data analysis is conducted to validate a theory. In some papers, you see a nomological model like this picture with some numbers on the arrows. Uh, how can we interpret these numbers? Let me help you with one example. Let me help you understand this with one example. If alignment is increased by 1 unit, firm performance will be increased by 0.34 unit, controlling for other factors such as firm responsiveness and uh, CIO's report to CEO or not. You may also see some R squared R2 related numbers on a construct or either inside a construct or next to a construct in the papers. R squared means only here, for example, R squared means only 16% of the variance of performance is explained by the three antecedents that you see here. That means around 84% of firm performance is not explained by the variables that you see in the picture, and other researchers have to go and figure out those antecedents. Often the practitioners, managers, they want to know the strengths of the relationship between two constructs. For example, here, how strong is the influence of alignment on firm performance? You want to know as a manager how strong is the influence of alignment on firm performance, firm responsiveness. That helps you to figure out how much you want to invest on alignment. Should you go for a high investment or a low investment? We usually interpret the strengths of a relationship using the numbers uh, that are calculated after data analysis. A relationship is strong if you see a number of zero point 0.3 or higher in a structured equation models like a nomological model like this, not simple regression analysis. Um, so if you see in papers, they usually use these normalized numbers. A relationship, a number of zero point 0.3 or higher, means a strong relationship. However, if a number is lower than 0.10 or um, you see just one asterisk or one hat next to the number, that means or nothing at all, that means the relationship is not strong. If you don't see any asterisks or hats next to a number, that means that relationship is not supported by data analysis. Note that these rules are overly simplified and you should not quote them outside this class. It's just for you to have a base understanding of what's going on, how we can interpret this models like this. And please note that many papers, many information system papers, they don't include nomological models with those numbers. So you would see some uh, statistics like that in tables, but inter interpreting them requires a knowledge of statistics, which hopefully you uh, absorb this kind of knowledge during this pre-master course, during pre-master program. An important skill that you need for this class is to be able to quickly find hypotheses in a theoretical paper. So my suggestion is to just skim the paper, try to look for nomological models. If you don't see rectangles or ovals with arrows in a folder in a figure, that means we don't have a nomological model in this paper. Then you'd better search for terms like hypothesis or H1, H2 to quickly find, the hypothesis. You may also see that some papers use proposition, so you'd better look for the term proposition in the papers as well. Usually qualitative papers use proposition rather than hypothesis. Uh, Proposition can include relationships that are not correlational or causal. Let me explain how I use theoretical papers to provide recommendations to the CIO. Assume that the CIO has an issue with regard to adoption of a technology such as enterprise resource planning systems. Employees resist against using this system. So this is a problem that he has. I try to look for adoption, usage, keywords like that. Uh, I use these keywords to search for journal papers. I find a paper, for example, Davis 1989, that explains the antecedents of technology adoption. Now I can use these antecedents to suggest a CIO what he needs to do. For example, he has to increase uh, ease of use. He has to increase the perception of usefulness of the system. How he can do that? Then you can be creative and use the paper to suggest what needs to be done. If you have any questions, please ask them during the interactive lecture session or in the discussion forum for this module.